Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short Advent talks. And today we're looking at Micah, chapter 5, verse 2. The carol, O little town of Bethlehem, isn't just a lovely carol. It has a lot of credibility. Just listen to the scripture here. But you, Bethlehem, Ephraim, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be a ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. You see, when Micah made his prophecy, and this was written down, Israel had bigger concerns. It was under threat. The northern section of Israel had been conquered by the Assyrian army, and in Judah there was now a real sense that Jerusalem could fall. They did actually manage to survive that siege, but later there was exile, and that happened under the king Zechariah. And we see that in the first verse. It says, "A siege is laid against us. They will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with a rod." It was a national disgrace as the king was taken into exile. But there would have been sort of another layer of a surprise here. Bethlehem's glory days were over. Yes, it was a notable place. I mean, after all, hadn't King David come from there? He'd had humble origins, but of course, it would have basked in the glory of his later reign. But that was a long, long time ago. It's interesting to note that even the wise men missed it when they were looking to find the King of the Jews. We read in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1-2, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi came from the east, came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." They go to the capital city. That's where they expect a king to be. Bethlehem was sort of about 5 miles down the road. And to be quite honest, they'd missed it. But they find out where Jesus is born when some of the scholars there quote this actual prophecy. But this was going to be a ruler, one like David. As I said, Bethlehem had an important place in David's history. He was anointed there years before he actually became king, but it was noted that he would become king of Israel. We could read about that in 1 Samuel 16. But this ruler has even greater credentials. Did you notice it says from whose origins are from of old, from ancient times? That can actually mean from the days of eternity. That's something which was quite extraordinary. Unless, of course, we link it with a prophecy that was made to King David, and that was one of his descendants would have, and note this, an everlasting kingdom. One that would go on for eternity. You see, Jesus is a descendant of David. In fact, he's often referred to as David's greatest son. And the wonderful thing we see in Micah later in the passage is this rule, this king, brings stability. Just listen to this. He will stand, this is verse 4, he will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they will live securely, for then his greatness will reach the ends of the earth, and he will be their peace. No king could really claim that. David, who was a great king, he started well, but his reign didn't finish that well in some ways. Solomon, his son, who came after him, was a great king, but in the end his reign ended in a bit of a mess, to be honest. We see here a king who can bring real stability. And as we think of the birth of Jesus, we think of the story of those wise men who came to seek the king. We have to think what our attitude is going to be. You see, Jesus can bring stability to those who turn to him, to admit they failed in their service of God or their lives in general. I can remember many years ago, it wasn't I was a bad kid. I wasn't. I used to obey my parents in most things. You would have said, the good outweighed the bad. But one day I realised, unless I actually turned and went God's way, I was failing in every part of my life. We can have real stability when we turn to Christ like that and call him King. Note the wise men's reaction, verse 11 of Matthew 2. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their gifts, their treasures, and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. The wise men came and worshipped and gave gifts that would have been a considerable cost to them. One thing and the one question for us is, are we prepared to entrust our lives, give them to Jesus the King? Are we prepared to trust that he will bring stability when we look to him for forgiveness and make him our King? Thank you so much for listening.